Ayan, isang magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. We are now live here at the official Facebook page of the Educational Technology Unit. This is our seventh session of the Casio Tech webinar in partnership with Casio Calculators Philippines. And this is, I think, our eighth episode. This for this Teachers Professional Development Program of Casio Calculators Philippines. So without much ado, let us now welcome my co-host, Ma'am Eliza D. Villena.
Good morning
Good
po.
morning, Ma'am
Good morning,
Eliza.
everyone. Good morning,
Ayan.
sir.
So please, good morning, Ma'am Eliza. Please bear with me kung medyo mahina ang aking boses kasi ongoing ang taping ng DepEd TV
Opo.
dito sa central office. So medyo mini-minimize ko ang aking boses.
Opo.
Kamusta po tayo, Ma'am Eliza?
Okay naman po. Medyo busy sa pag-opening ng class. Pero thankful pa rin na nakaka-attend ng webinars, di ba?
Kamusta ang preparation, Ma'am, sa inyong school?
Sa preparation sa school po namin, actually, particularly sa class ko, 100% naman po napamigay na yung module. Kasi nasa schedule naman po. On schedule pa naman po.
Yun. So, napakaganda lang yung polo shirt, ma'am. This is, I think, Casio Education
Gosh,
Philippines. Sir Joel?
sariling sikap, sir.
Sir Joel? Sir Joel? So, ayun ma'am, no? Talagang this is new normal to us. And I think talagang sa Metro Manila and NCR will be utilizing different modalities. Isa na dyan yung modular, online. And I think with the online education that we have, with the blended learning that we're going to implement, pwede natin magamit itong i-discuss natin, the emulators. Kasi alam naman natin, medyo pricey yung calculator talaga. So with the help of this emulators na 3 months free trial, ang mga learners natin makasasabay sa ating online learning. So ma'am, I know you are a math teacher as well. So paano ba natin ginagamit or ini-integrate itong calculator sa ating pagtuturo?
Actually, I have always been a fan of Casio calculators. If you look back, pag nagsalita talaga ako, I always recommend it. Kasi since high school, I always use Casio calculator. Nung dumating ako ng turo ako senior high school currently. So, very useful ang emulator kasi hindi nalilito ang batas pagdating sa paggamit ng calculator. Especially sa senior high school, very useful ang calculator sa kanila. So, kapag may ibang klase ng calculator, somehow Casio paves way para mas lalong maging useful, maximizing with the use of technology talaga siya. Then talagang present siya sa screen mo, so hindi problema. So parang nung time na narinig ko nga na we're going to the new normal, parang excited din ako na ma-share din talaga sa mga teachers natin kung paano nga ba gamitin itong calculator na to or emulator na to. Yun.
So ayun, talagang napaka-swerte rin talaga ng mga learners natin ngayon kasi medyo talagang lahat ay pinoprovide for them. And syempre, sabi nga natin, DepEd cannot do it alone. We need the support of our stakeholders, our LGU, our NGOs, and syempre our private stakeholders. And isa sa kanila ang Casio na very consistent in supporting DepEd sa ginagawa natin. So ma'am, I think ikaw ang napili to introduce our very competent and very knowledgeable speaker. I think this will be his second appearance sa ating EdTech session. So ma'am, take it away.
Okay. So, good morning everyone. So, explain ko lang po somehow. Sana po mag-heart-heart lang po tayo at patuloy na mag-like kung excited po kayo sa topic natin today. Our topic is actually about the techniques in solving trigonometric equations. So, kung senior high school teacher kayo, thumbs up. Kasi I have been a senior high school teacher for I think 2 years na sa STEM. And trigonometry is something na striking para sa estudyante, di ba? And this particular session is where the past learnings, the previous topics matters the most. So, ganda ka lang kasi yung session ng Casio and EdTech kasi di ba it builds on para sabi nga ni Sir, di ba, it is the 8th one. And dun sa previous na 7 ones, if you have watched that one, super nagbi-build up lang din siya. And I hope that as teachers, malaman nga natin mga solutions, yung iba't ibang ways para masolve ng bata yung equation natin. Sabi nga nila, the best solution for particular problem is the solution that works for you. So kung nag-work po siya sa bata, let's not baka kasi ang tendency natin is tanggihan natin yung bata. Remember, we're open to different solutions. And I think the speaker today is someone na talaga makakapag-share ng different things na magagawa natin in this new normal. Kasi how do we impart? Diba? How do we impart knowledge? How do we impart skills? How do we impart yung content na kailangan nila? Lalo na't kaharap natin ay ang ating camera and we don't see any reaction. Thankful ako sa like at saka sa hearts, diba? So, talking about him, he is a BS Mathematics graduate with a Master's degree of Arts in Education, major in Mathematics, with 39 units under the Master of Science in Mathematics Education program. He has also been recognized as an outstanding teacher by the City of Malabon. He was also part of the first batch of MTOP scholars, being lauded by the organization as an exemplary teacher back in 2019. Yan. He is actually a master teacher in Pinajeros National High School, so he is my colleague. So a Casio tech teacher legend and a beloved colleague and educator, he is none other than Mr. Reynaldo Torres. Sir Ray!
Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir! Ayan, excited na sila, sir. Dami na nila makikinig sa'yo. So, sige, alam ko excited ka na rin to share your knowledge there. So, bye!
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm here for you to impart some knowledge, no, somehow. And somehow, make it a bit easier, no? Alam naman natin na talagang medyo mahirap tong topic na to. But somehow, we try to make it easier for the students na din. And for us na rin, no? Kasi we all know na this is a very hard topic to discuss in the first place. So kung mahirap siya na topic for teachers, mahihirapan din si estudyante. But if you try to make it easier for us, no, mas madali din na ma-impart para sa mga estudyante. No? I think this is the last for trigonometry. This is the last day for trigonometry. So, the next few Saturdays, it will be a different topic na. No? So, medyo masaya to. No? We all know na, syempre, pag-start, medyo madali pa yung topic. And as we progress, pahirap siya ng pahirap. O, since this is the last topic for trigonometry, so expect a bit, no? Pero, once again, katulad sinabi ko kanina, we try to find some techniques to make it easier for the students to understand. Ayan po. All right, to start with, I have here a position statement coming from NCTM. No? Technology is an essential tool for teaching and learning mathematics effectively. It extends the mathematics that can be taught and enhances students' learning. So, if you were able to attend my session last August 1, I already stipulated so many reasons kung bakit magandang gumamit ng mga technological tools when teaching math. No? And we said there na when we use technology, it somehow saves time dun sa tedious computations and gives more time for observations, give more time for students to analyze the final answers. Kasi 'di ba? Marunong nga tayong kumuha ng answers, but how to interpret it? It's also important matter, 'di ba? Kasi nga the twin goals of our K-12 curriculum for mathematics is problem-solving skills and critical thinking. So we can only attain problem-solving skills, especially critical thinking, if we let them analyze their answers, no, to give meaning of the answers that we were able to obtain. Okay? So next, benefits of the use of calculators. Calculators can be used to develop concepts, no? Napakita na natin yan for the past few episodes. Calculators can be used for drills, so mga practice exercises. Calculators enhance problem solving. As I've said kanina, calculators can save time and open time for other activities for math. Calculators are commonly used in the society, no? So it's widely spread use, no? Kahit saan naman kahit nag-work ka na, it's being used, no? Minsan hindi mo akala na calculator, well, it's already a calculator embedded in softwares and applications. Okay po, for the last, this is the last statement that I have here from Heidi Pomeranz, no, of Rice University. Students must learn to make wise choices about when to use calculators for tedious computations and when to use mental math for simple computations and estimations. No, pero how will our students develop this kind of choices? Syempre, if we will let them be exposed with the different technologies that we have. Tama ba? Syempre, kung nagagamit niyo yun, okay. Etong problem na to madali lang. I don't need to use the calculator. Okay, eto medyo mahirap. So, I need to use my calculators na for this. So though this kind of decision making will only be attained if they are exposed with such technology. Okay po? Now, to start with, okay, the main topic, here are the different techniques that I'm going to discuss. No, three major subdivisions. First one, using the quadrant rule. I don't know if some teachers are already familiar with this, but mostly yata nang nakakausap ko parang hindi pa masyadong familiar with the quadrant rule. Secondly, solutions using algebraic manipulations. Under this second one, yung algebraic manipulations, we have so many subtopics for this or sub-techniques for this. And then lastly, solutions using the identities. So somehow, I would give certain examples for such. All right, let's have the first one. All right, definition. Oh, of course, we need to define first everything, no? A trigonometric equation is an equation that involves at least one trigonometric function. So, kasi, we all know na dapat meron tayong trigonometric function para masabi natin siyang trigonometric equation. There are also some equations where it involves more than one trigonometric equations, no? Kaya nga meron tayong iba't ibang techniques to how to solve for that. Okay, let's continue. This is an example of a trigonometric equation. We have sine x is equal to 1/2. Now, if we are going to find for the solutions of this equation, no, this equation has many solutions. If we will try to look at the graph, no, the blue wave is actually the graph of the sine function, right? So as you can see, you have there the line y is equal to 0.5. All right. So meaning in the equation sine x is equal to 1/2, the left side of the equation is represented by the function f of x is equal to sine x. And then the right side of the equation 1/2, all right, is represented by the constant function, which is y is equal to 0.5. Okay po? Now, paano natin nasabi that there are so many solutions for this one? Actually, the solutions for this equation are actually the intersections of the sine function and the linear equation y is equal to 0.5. Ang dami nun, di ba? Sobrang dami nun. Alright, these are the intersections. And we all know as we extend further to the left and then as we extend further to the right, mas marami pa ang intersection yan. So actually, there is infinitely many solutions. Alright? Now, you may be asked to find, there are actually two things, no? Pag pinapasolve na, no? Pag pinapasagot na kayo ni teacher, there are two things. One, you may be asked solutions on a specific interval. Let's say, for example, between the interval 0 to 2 pi. All right? The closed interval from 0 to 2 pi. No? Bakit usually yung closed interval na 0 to 2 pi? Kasi that's the one complete period, no? For certain functions. Example, no? The solutions for the equation sine x is equal to 1/2 between the interval, all right, between the closed interval 0 to 2 pi, the solutions are pi over 6 or 5 pi over 6. Yeah, okay. No? So, next slide. All right. Next slide. No, sorry. Now, the other one, di ba, una, you will be asked for specific interval, specific solution on a specific interval. This time naman, general solution. So you are going to be asked for all the solutions, no? So in this case, we have in general x is equal to pi over 6 plus 2 pi n, or x is equal to 5 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n, wherein n is any integer. So to represent the other intersections. Tama po ba? Okay. So how do we do that? All right. Before we start on things, no, na madugo ang pagsosolve, let us try to investigate the graphs of some trigonometric functions. I have here 3 functions, no? The blue one is for the sine function. The red graph, all right, the red one is for the cosine function, and the green one is for the tangent function. Okay po? Napag-aralan na po natin yan the previous episodes, no? Yung mga unang nag-discuss sa atin. All right. So, if we are going to look between 0 to 90 degrees, this is actually for the quadrant 1. No? No? All the functions are above the x-axis, meaning the image of those functions are all positive in quadrant 1. Okay po? And between 90 degrees to 180 degrees, okay, the graph that is above the x-axis is only sine function, meaning only the values of the sine function are positive in the second quadrant. Now, going to the third quadrant, that is between 180 to 270 degrees, no, the only graph that is above the x-axis is the tangent function. So meaning, no, all the values of the tangent function in the third quadrant is positive. And lastly, okay, for the fourth quadrant, that is between 270 degrees to 360 degrees, the only function that is above the x-axis is the cosine function. So meaning, si cosine lang ang positive for the fourth quadrant. So to summarize, again, quadrant 1, no, all functions are positive. For the second quadrant, only sine function is positive. For the third quadrant, only tangent function is positive. And for the fourth quadrant, only cosine function is positive. Okay, so meron yan abbreviation. So ano yun? So yung, di ba, from the first quadrant, all. So it will start from letter A. And then, when you go to the fourth quadrant, you have there C for the cosine. So letter C. And then third quadrant, that is T, no, for tangent. And then S for sine. A, C, T, S. So madali siya matandaan. Ax. Tama po? Madali siya matandaan. Ax. A, first quadrant, if we will follow the clockwise rotation, so fourth quadrant, cosine is positive. Next, third quadrant, tangent is positive. Next, sine function is positive for the second quadrant. So, ax. No? And yung acronym na yun dapat, no, mag-follow ng clockwise rotation. Okay. So, let us investigate further, no? Let us observe. This time naman, let us observe the reference angle. Now, this red one, this is his or its reference angle. This is its reference angle, no? And this is in quadrant 1. And we all know that all acute angles in quadrant 1, no, are the reference angles for themselves. Okay. Now for quadrant 2, for the yellow one, no? Yellow, this is the terminal side. This is your reference angle from x-axis to the terminal side. For the third quadrant, the blue naman na terminal side, all right, now from the x-axis to the terminal side of this is your reference angle. And then for the fourth quadrant, the green naman na terminal side, from the x-axis to the green na terminal side, this is your reference angle. But we all know that when we try to measure the angles, no, it should always start from the positive x-axis. So if we're going to find the angle that is formed between the positive x-axis to this one, no? This one sa yellow na terminal side, no? Paano natin makukuha yung angle na yon? Kasi yun yung pinapakuha sa atin this session, eh. No? And we all know that etong isang buo na to hanggang dito, from this is actually a semicircle, and this is actually pi. Kasi iba isang buong unit circle is 2 pi. So up to this, so half of the circle, this is pi. So how do we get the angle from the positive x-axis hanggang kay yellow na terminal side? Di syempre, ibawas ko itong reference angle ko na ito. para makuha ko yung angle from the positive x-axis. So that is actually pi minus 180. So let us try to fill up this table. No? Quadrant 1, sabi natin, the reference angle is the angle itself. No? Kaya the angle in radians is the reference angle in radians itself. Okay. In quadrant 2, no? In quadrant 2, what we wanted to do, no? Sabi natin paano makukuha si angle from the positive x-axis. We will subtract the reference angle from 180 degrees. So, that's it. Or it's pi minus the reference angle because pi is equal to 180. Now, for the third one, no, yung nasa third quadrant naman, this is your reference angle. Aha! Dahil ito isang pi, idagdag ko lang si reference angle. So, for the third quadrant, para makuha yung angle natin, we will be needing to add pi to the reference angle or 180 degrees plus the reference angle. Now, for the fourth quadrant, this is your reference angle. Paano natin makukuha yun, sir? Sir, one complete revolution is 360 degrees or 2 pi. So, kung ibabawas ko itong reference angle, yun na yung angle na we wanted to get. Tama po, up to the green terminal side. So, that means pala, sir, to get the angles and regions, we simply subtract the reference angle from 2 pi or 360 degrees minus the reference angle. So these things we need to remember, okay? We need to remember this. Although na-discuss na ito with the previous lessons that we had, previous episodes discussing reference angles, all right? We will be needing this in finding solutions to the trigonometric equations. Okay, so let us start with solutions using the quadrant rule. So this is the easiest. Okay, syempre, no? Ganun talaga ang buhay. Nung bata pa tayo, wala tayong masyadong problema, wala tayong masyadong isip as we go along with our lives na dumadami ang ating mga responsibilidad. Okay, ganun din dito sa math. No, as you progress, no, syempre, kailangan natin mag-level up. Hindi natin kailangan maging stagnant. Okay, let's have the first example. Solve for x, no, for the given equation where x is between the closed interval 0 to 2 pi. Okay, number 1, sin x is equal to 0.5. Although nakita na natin kanina yung solutions niya, di ba? This is my first example dun sa mga previous slides. How are we going to use the quadrant rule? Okay, on the right figure, nandun na yung binigay ko na yung quadrant rule, no? Para maalala. Kasi, syempre, sir, I was made aware that there are also na hindi mga math teachers na nanonood. So kailangan medyo bagalan natin siya, no? So, kung kailangan, andyan pa si quadrant rule. Ano? As we go along, no, medyo alisin natin siya para medyo matandaan. Magpa-practice muna natin. Okay. So, sin x is equal to 0.5. How do we do that? Now, since sin x is positive, no, kasi 0.5 is positive, then x must be in the first quadrant or in the second quadrant. Yun yung sabi ni ni quadrant rule, di ba? First quadrant, all functions are positive. Second quadrant, sine is positive. Aha! So, angle x must be in quadrant 1 or in quadrant 2. Okay. So, ito yun. So, this is our possible, no, na terminal side that we are talking about. This is in the first quadrant. And in second quadrant, ito yung itsura niya. So, ito yung angle na hinahanap natin. So there are two possible values for x. Now in the previous discussions nyo, no, this is actually no special angle, no. Kailan magiging 1/2 si sin x? Okay, from the previous lesson, sin x is equal to 0.5. So the angle x must be pi over 6 or 5 pi over 6. Okay po. And that is between the interval 0 to 2 pi. Now, how are we going to use our calculator? Sige po, gamit tayo ni calculator. Okay. Na-discuss ni Sir Lee last week kung paano gamitin si inverse trigonometric functions. Tama po. So, inverse trigonometric functions, siya yung yellow function ni sine, cosine, at saka ni tangent. So, we need to press shift. All right, so sine x is equal to 0.5. We need to get the inverse sine of both sides of the equation. Inverse sine of sine x, matitira na lang dyan si x from last week's discussion. And inverse sine of 0.5, no? So using our ClassWiz, so shift, and then sine, that's your inverse sine, and then 0.5. Sir, pwede po ba 1/2? Bahala ka. Si 1/2 naman, equal din naman siya kay 0.5. Okay. So when we press equal, sir, wala ka pang close parenthesis, okay lang. Wala ka naman ng kasunod na ita-type or na functions na ilalagay, di ba? So it's okay kahit wala ng close parenthesis. So when we press equals, all right, 30. But we all know that our calculator is in degree mode. So this is 30 degrees. All right? Sir, how do we find it in radians? So, di ba tinuruan na kayo last nung August 1 na session how to convert 30 degrees in radians? Paano po uli yun? You need to multiply this by pi over 180. So, doing so, you have times shift and then times 10 raised to x kasi andun si pi. Siya yung yellow function ni pi. So, and then over 180. And when we press equal, so you have 1/6 pi or pi over 6. Yes, sir, paano po if you wanted all the final answers, no? Kasi baka nakalimutan ko na po kung paano mag-convert eh. Si August 1 pa yun, sir. Anong petsa na ngayon? September na ngayon, sir eh. No? So, paano po namin, sir, gagawin yon? So, di ba naturo ko na rin yon no August 1? How do we do that? So, we need to change the mode, okay, of the calculator for all the answers to be in radians. How do we do that? You need to press shift and then menu setup. No? You will see this on your screens. You need to press 2 for the angle unit. Okay, so press 2. Alright, so radian is number 2. So you need to press 2 again. Okay, so when you press 2, ayan, makikita nyo na ngayon sa upper part ng inyong screen calculator, it's already R. So hindi na siya DR na siya. Meaning, all the finals answer now will be in radian form. Okay, so paano nga ulit yun, sir? Sige nga, try mo nga po ulit. Shift, inverse sine of 0.5 is equal to, so you have there 1/6 pi. Okay, sir, wait. Isa lang po yung binigay ni ClassWiz na sagot. Pero sabi niyo po, dalawa dapat ang sagot eh. So yun yung sinasabi natin last time, no? Ng estudyante have to analyze the final answer. This is the part na magre-reason out si estudyante. Okay? This is the part na mag-iisip na siya, this is only one value for the angle. This is only pi over 6. Pero this is in the first quadrant. Tama po? Kasi si first quadrant is 0 to pi over 2. Mas maliit si pi over 6 kay pi over 2. Tama? So, ibig sabihin, si pi over 6, na kay first quadrant siya. Sabi natin kanina, sir, all the angles in the first quadrant are actually the reference angles. Tama po? So, we will be needing pi over 6. Now, paano po yun? Paano po ngayon yun? Kailangan po natin yung isa pang angle in quadrant 2. Kasi sabi niyo po, sir, x must be in quadrants 1 or in quadrant 2. Tama po ba? No? Ang kulit ng mga nagchat-chat. Okay. So, paano natin gagawin? Di ba diniscuss natin kanina, how do we get the angle in the second quadrant? We subtract the reference angle kay pi. So, doing so, so shift pi minus the answer, yun yung reference angle natin kanina, diba? The answer is equal to 5 pi over 6. So that is our second value for x. So ayan na, no? We were able to solve the two angles for the equation. Alright. Okay po. So, let's go to the next sample problem. Okay. Let's have this one. This time we have cosine x is equal to the negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay, the same thing. We were asked to find the values of x in the interval, close interval, 0 to 2 pi. So, this time, cosine is negative. No? Cosine is negative. Eh, si cosine, positive siya kay first quadrant tsaka kay fourth quadrant. O, di ibig sabihin, negative siya kay second quadrant at saka kay third quadrant. Okay, yun. Busog, dumibigay. Ayun, no? Since cosine x is negative, then x must be in quadrants 2 or 3. Okay po? So, ito yung magiging itsura nun, no? Yan siya. This is the angle that we are looking, and this is the angle that we are looking. Okay. So, special angle din ba siya, sir? Yes. Okay po. So, doon sa previous na discussions natin, anong sabi? For cosine x to be negative square root of 3 over 2x must be 5 pi over 6 or 7 pi over 6. So, ito yung si 5 pi over 6. Kasi ito yung isang buong pi. Somewhere here, no? Somewhere here siya. And then lagpas siya ng isang buong pi. That is somewhere here siya. Okay. So, how are we going to use our calculators now? Ayan. So, this time, we will be using inverse cosine. Paano gagawin si inverse cosine? So, shift. And then, this is your inverse cosine. Alright. And then, fraction. Alright. This is the fraction bar. Negative square root of 3 over 2. And we press equal, so you have 5 pi over 6. Okay, ito yung nasa second quadrant. Okay, ito yon. Sir, paano namin kukunin si angle in third quadrant? Eh, hindi po siyang reference angle. So, paano natin makukuha si reference angle? Ito yon, di ba? Ito si reference angle natin kay second quadrant. Paano natin makukuha si reference angle? Eh di itong angle na to, isubtract natin kay 180 para makuha si reference angle or kay pi. So, shift pi minus the answer. So, ito ngayon si reference angle natin, si pi over 6. Paano natin ngayon makukuha? Si angle in the third quadrant? Anong sabi kanina natin? Doon sa napag-usapan sa table, we need to add it to pi. So, plus pi. When we press equals, you have 7 pi over 6. Okay po? Okay. So, medyo madali pa, sir. Kaya-kaya pa namin yan. No? Next slide. Example number 3. Now, this time we have tangent x is equal to negative 1. Now, if we're going to look again sa ating quadrant rule, no, si tangent positive kay first quadrant at saka kay third quadrant. Across, no, magkahiwalay. And then, cosine, this ibig sabihin, negative si tangent kay fourth quadrant at saka kay second quadrant. Tama po? So, that's it. So, tangent, no, for tangent to be negative, then it must be in quadrants 2 or 4. Okay. So, ito yung itsura nun. Tama po ba? Ito yung nahanap natin angle. Okay? Negative 1, special angle ulit yan, sir. So for tangent x to be negative 1, x must be 3 pi over 4. So, ito yon yung nasa second quadrant. Or 7 pi over 4. Tama po ba? Okay. So, paano natin gagamitin si calculus? So, again, inverse tangent, you need to press shift. So, shift, and then tangent. So, inverse tangent of negative 1. Ay, sumobra yung negative. Yan. So, negative 1. When we press equals, so that's negative 1/4 pi. Sir, wait. That's negative 1/4 pi. So, ibig sabihin po, ang rotation niya is clockwise. Kasi ang positive na angle is counterclockwise. So, ayun yung nasa illustration natin. Pag ganun yung direction, positive si angle. Pag ganun yung direction, negative si angle. No? So, ibig sabihin, pag ganun siya, aha! So, ito, yung binigay ni calculator, ito yung nasa fourth quadrant. Tama po? Siya yung nasa fourth quadrant. Pero, ang sabi sa atin, sir, the angle should be from 0 to 2 pi. Ibig sabihin, kailangan po positive po si angle. Negative po yan eh. So, anong dapat namin gawin? Di, kunin mo yung unang kanyang co-terminal angle. First, positive co-terminal angle. Paano kukunin yon? Ayan. Kung nakalimutan, anong gagawin? We just need to add one complete revolution, and that is 2 pi. So, plus 2 pi. So, shift, and then this one for the pi equals. So, 7 pi over 4. Ayun yun. Tama po ba? Ayun yun. Now, sir, paano na naman makukuha yung nasa second quadrant? Kung ito po pala ay pi over 4 or 1/4 pi, ibig sabihin, ito yung reference angle. Aha! Para makuha namin itong angle na ito, no, which is in the second quadrant, anong sabi? We need to subtract the reference angle kay pi. So, shift, and then pi minus pi over 4, which is the reference angle. Alright, so you have 3 pi over 4 or 3/4 pi, which is the solution to our equation. Okay po? Okay, let us continue. So, medyo madali pa, sir. Medyo madali pa, sir. Okay, this one. No? Sir, hindi na siya special angle eh. No? Hindi na siya special angle. So, paano po yan? Di wala ka ng choice, kundi gagamit ka talaga ng calculator. Okay po? So, but this time, sir, sign is negative. Saan negative si sign? First quadrant, positive si sign. Second quadrant, positive si sign. So, the sign must be in third quadrant or in fourth quadrant. Okay. So, baka ito yung itsura niya, no? So, baka ito yung itsura niya. This is the sign in the third quadrant. This is the sign on the terminal side in the fourth quadrant, rather. And this is the terminal side in the third quadrant. Okay. So, if we're going to use our calculators, dalawa dapat. So, makes sense. Kung fourth quadrant, dapat less than siya kay 2 pi is, pi is approximately 3.14. So, 6.28. Tama. Mas mababa siya kay 6.28. Tama po. Etong third quadrant is between pi to 3 pi over 2. So, mahigit kalahati ni pi. So, sige. Paano natin gagawin yung kay calculator? Okay. So, again, medyo madugo ito ha. Medyo madugo. Sige. Shift, and then sign for the inverse sign, and then negative 0.8. When you press equals, ayan na siya. Sir, negative po ulit siya eh. No? So, how do we get the again? How do we get again the first positive co-terminal angle? We need to add what? 2 pi. So, plus 2 shift and then pi equals. Okay po. So, that's 5.35589089. Or, if we round this off, 2 decimal places, that's 5.36. Okay. Paano po, sir? Yan po yung nasa fourth quadrant eh. How do we get the sir? The angle in the third quadrant. Wala pa po tayong reference angle. No? Ang reference angle niya, ito, di ba? Ito yung reference angle niya eh. Tama? So, how do we get the reference angle? We subtract this angle from 360 degrees or 2 pi. So, 2 pi minus the answer must be your reference angle. This is my reference angle. Aha, sir. Tama. Kasi negative 0.92729 blah, 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 blah. Yung kanina nakuha namin, di ba, sir? Yung unang-una. So, yun yung reference angle. Kunin mo lang yung positive niya or the absolute value niya. Siya na yung reference angle namin, sir. So, paano namin makukuha yung nasa third, ano po ulit, sir? Quadrant? Anong sabi natin kanina dito sa table? The reference angle should be added to pi. So, plus pi. So, shift, and then pi equals. So, 4.07. Okay po? So, yun po siya, no? Yun po siya. Ito po yung sinasabi natin, no, na kailangan talaga mag-reason out ni estudyante, no? Ito po yung teachers, ito po yung sinasabi natin nung August 1, nung pinakaunang episode ng trigonometry, no? Na 'di ba bago ako nag-discuss, sinasabi natin na walang kwenta si calculator o kahit anong technological tools na merong hawak si estudyante kung hindi naman niya naintindihan yung topic na tinuro mo. Kasi kahit anong pindot sa calculator ni estudyante, walang kwenta yung sagot na lalabas. Tama po? Tama po ba? O, just like for this one, although we are using our calculator, kung hindi niya naintindihan yung concept na tinuro natin, palagay niyo ba makukuha ni estudyante yung tamang sagot? Di ba hindi? So that is what we are telling you po, teachers, no? That is what we are telling you po. Okay? So, andyan pa rin, papasok yung pag-a-analyze ni estudyante sa final answer. Does this make sense? Tama ba to? Tama ba yung sagot ko? Parang ganon. Parang may kulang. Oo nga pala, dapat dalawa yung angle. Tama ba? So, yun siya. Tama po? Yun siya. Although we are using calculators, the students are still thinking. Nag-iisip pa rin yung estudyante natin. Okay po? So, wag natin i-deprive estudyante natin in using calculator. Other technological tools. Okay, this time, sir, secant yan, sir, secant x. Sir, hindi po nabibisaya. Si sir, ha? Ang tama pong pagbigkas po dyan ay secant. Okay? Kasi po, sir, nung nag-aaral po kami ng lower grade, sir, secant, no? It's secant. No? Kahit i-search nyo pa sa Google Speaks. No, it's secant. Okay. Secant x is equal to 1.6. So, medyo gagamit tayo ng isang simple identity dito. No? Kasi, sir, sa quadrant rule mo, tatlo lang yung diniscuss mo sine, cosine, tangent. And but we all know that secant is the reciprocal of what? Nino? Ni cosine. So, gagamitin natin si cosine. Yan. So, solution, rewrite secant x equal to 8.5. Kasi si 1.6, that is 8 over 5 pala rather. Sorry, hindi 8.5. 8 over 5. Rewrite secant x is equal to 8 over 5 as cosine x equal to 5 over 8. Wait, sir, bakit ganun? Bakit naging 5 over 8? Kasi reciprocal ni secant si cosine. Reciprocal ni cosine si secant. So, i-reciprocal ko si secant para maging cosine. E di i-reciprocal mo rin dapat yung 8 over 5 para maging 5 over 8. Para hindi na violate yung ating equation. Okay po? Anong sabi natin, di ba? What you do to the left side of the equation should also be done to the right side of the equation para balance it. Okay. Using reciprocal function. And so, we just need to solve for cosine x equals 5 over 8. And since cosine is positive, no, it must be in x, or angle x must be in quadrant 1 or 4. Okay po? No? Okay. So, paano yan? Paano na yan? Paano na yan? Okay. So, using ClassWiz, yan po daw dapat ang dalawang lalabas. So, try natin. Shift cosine for the inverse cosine. 1. Hindi na siya 1.6 rather, no? It should be 5 over 8. So, 5 over 8. When we press equals, alright, so you have 0.89564. So, if we will round this off to two decimal places, it's 0.9. And this is in the first quadrant. Kailangan natin yung nasa fourth quadrant. How do we get the angle in the fourth quadrant again? we subtract this reference angle. Diba? Lahat ng na-angle sa first quadrant is the reference angle. So, to get the angle in the fourth quadrant, we need to subtract this reference angle from 2 pi. So, 2 shift pi minus the answer equals 5.3875. So, and so on. If we will round this off to 2 decimal places, is 5.39. Okay po? Okay po ba? So, okay, let's proceed. Let's go to the last example for the quadrant tool. Okay. 4 tangent x, 4 times tangent x is equal to negative 3. So, there are some algebraic manipulations that should be done first. Kasi, dapat si tangent lang daw po ang may iwan sa left side. So, we need to divide both sides by 4, leaving you with tangent x is equal to negative 3/4. No? Para mawala si 4 na numerical coefficient ni tangent, no? We need to divide both sides by 4. So, if we will divide this by 4, so mawawala na si 4, magiging 1 na siya. Kaya tangent x na lang, and then negative 3/4 sa right side. And since tangent is negative, no, it must be in the second quadrant or in the, no. Tama pala dahil negative. Second quadrant and in the fourth quadrant dahil negative si tangent. Kasi positive siya kay first at kay third. Yan negative siya kay second at kay fourth. Okay. Using ClassWiz, yan daw po ang lalabas. Sige, tingnan natin. So, shift and then tangent, that's negative 3/4. So, negative 3, fraction bar, and then 4. Okay? When we press equal, so you have there, negative 0.6435. Sir, negative ulit eh. Sabi nga po, 0 to 2 pi. So, kailangan positive si angle. No? So, kung titingnan natin, siya yung angle na naka fourth quadrant. So, getting the first positive coterminal angle for this one, so we need to add 2 pi. Okay, adding 2 pi gives you 5.63968 and so on. So, rounding off this to 2 decimal places, that's 5.64. Tama po ba? Okay po. No? So, paano naman po yung nasa second quadrant? Paano gagawin natin? No? Paano gagawin natin? Kunin si reference angle. Paano kukunin si reference angle? Kung nasa fourth quadrant yung angle, subtract from 360. Siya si reference angle. So, that's 2 pi. 2 pi minus the angle will give you the reference angle. How to get it? Kay second quadrant, yung angle kay second quadrant, subtract the reference angle kay pi. So, shift pi minus the answer is equal to, alright, 2.49809. Aha, so may mali pala ako sa pag-round off. This should be 2.50. Okay, so ayan. Naduling na ako siguro kagabi kakagawa ng presentation. Okay, so actually, meron pang isang paraan para makuha siya kay ClassWiz. So, for example, balik tayo dito kay number 1 example. How do we get the solutions for sine x is equal to 0.5? Okay, let us use this one. Hindi natin gagamitin si inverse functions. Hindi natin gagamitin si inverse trigonometric functions. But what we're going to do is to treat the left side of the function, of the equation rather, as one function, and the right side of the equation as another function. Okay. So let's say this is f of x equal to sine x, and this is g of x is equal to 0.5. So let us use that this time table mode. So press menu and then 9. That is for table mode. Hihingin si f of x. Sabi natin si f of x mo si sine x. So sine x. Si x eto, yung nasa ilalim ni on. Equals. Tatanungin ka ano si g of x. Sabi natin, sir, di ba si 0.5 si g of x. So 0.5 equals. range. Mag-start ako kay 0 kasi 0 to 2 pi daw eh, di ba? Mag-end ako kay 2 pi. So, 2 and then shift pi. Step or the interval. There are two intervals that you can use. Either pi over 6 or pi over 4. Bakit pi over 6 at saka pi over 4 lang ang pwede kong pagpilian, sir? Kasi yun yung mga special angles natin. Okay? Siya yung mga special angles natin. Eh, sir, meron pa tayong special angle na pi over 3 eh. Eh, si pi over 3, may include na siya kay pi over 6. Bakit? O, pi over 6. 2 pi over 6. Pag ni lowest term, pi over 3. And then 3 pi over 6, that's pi over 2. 4 pi over 6. Lowest term, 2 pi over 3. O, di nakasama mo na rin yung intervals ni pi over 3 kay pi over 6. Eh, bakit si pi over 4? Dinaanan ba niya nung nag-try tayo kay pi over 6? Di ba hindi? So, hindi siya dadaanan doon. So, there are two intervals na pwede mong gamitin. Si pi over 6 or si pi over 4. So, itry muna natin kay pi over 6. So, shift pi over 6 equals and then equals. So, these are the two functions na got. Ito kay sine, ito yung g functions natin. Diba pi over 6 ang interval natin? Kay pi over 6 equals silang dalawa, parehas na 0.5. O diba? Yun nga yung unang solution natin eh, diba? Pi over 6. Pi over 6. Yan siya, diba? Pi over 6, yung unang solution. And then, so, this is 0. So, pi over 6, and then 2 pi over 6, and then 3 pi over 6, and then 4 pi over 6, and then 5 pi over 6. Equal ulit, sir. So, 5 pi over 6. And then, as you go along, wala na siyang mag-equal. Okay? Okay. So, using table mode, we were able to see the two solutions for this equation. Pi over 6 or 5 pi over 6. Okay po. So, hindi ka gumamit ng inverse trigonometric functions. But you interpret the left side and the right side of the equations as different functions. Okay. Etong method na to, etong table method na to, masayang gamitin kapag marami ng terms yung equation sa left side tsaka sa right side. Masaya na siyang gamitin. Okay. So, binibigyan ko kayo ng pagkakataon. So, how do we see the graph? How do we see the graph of this one? No? So, dapat dalawa ang intersection nitong dalawang graph na ito sa period na 0 to 2 pi. So, how do we see the graph? So, syempre gagamit na tayo ng QR code. No? Kasi hindi naman graphing calculator si Casio ClassWiz natin. So, how do we do that? Press Shift and then QR. So, etong barcode na yan, kailangan may scan ng ating QR code reader. Okay, gagamit po ako ng Samsung Dex. Yan po, makikita niyo po, ito po ay parang cellphone ko. Okay? Ito po yung parang cellphone ko. Ginamit ko po siya para makita niyo po yung mag-a-appear sa cellphone ko. Okay, so we will use the Casio Edu Plus na app, na mobile app. And then, scan QR code. So, ito yung screen na makikita sa cellphone ko. Okay, ito yung makikita sa screen sa cellphone ko. Scan QR code. Okay, so i-scan ko na yung QR code na, nakita niyo yung table ko, di ba? So, ito yung laptop ko. I-scan natin yung QR code na nandito sa laptop. So, open a browser. So, kailangan nakakonect kayo kay internet. So, open it in Chrome. Okay, mag-o-open na yung browser ni Casio. No? Wait lang. So, naglo-loading pa din siya, no? Actually, pwede nyo siyang lakihan, eh. Pwede nyo lakihan yung screen. So, eto siya. No? When you try to zoom it, ayan. So, dalawa yung intersection ng graph. Tama po? Sa period na 0 to 2 pi. Okay po? So, makes sense. Makikita rin ng estudyante na, oo nga, no? Dalawa lang yung intersection ng dalawang function. Kaya dalawa lang din yung intersection sa interval na 0 to 2 pi. Okay po? So, let us continue with our presentation. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let us try to have now algebraic manipulations. Okay. This time we will be using different algebraic manipulations. Okay po? So example, solve for x. 2 cosine x minus 3 equal to negative 5. Okay? So, how do we do this? First, no, kailangan kasi cosine lang yung matira sa left side na equation. So, paano maaalis si minus 3? So, we need to add 3 both sides. So, kasi pag nag-add ka ng 3 dito, magsi-zero out na yun. Tama po? Gives you 2x equals negative 2. Kasi negative 5 plus 3, negative 2. Now, how do we eliminate 2 naman dito? So, to make it 1, yung numerical coefficient ni cosine x, we need to divide both sides naman by 2. So, cosine x equals negative 1. O, di using quadrant rule, no? Anong sabi sa quadrant rule? Kailan magiging negative si cosine? No? Saan ba positive si cosine? Kay quadrant 1 tsaka kay quadrant 4. Diba? So, ibig sabihin, negative siya kay quadrant 2 at quadrant 3. Okay. So, using ClassWiz, we have x is equal to pi. Okay po? Now, this time, ang problem sa atin, ang sabi, solve for x. Walang sinabing interval. Walang sinabing interval. So, ibig sabihin, you are asked to solve for all, no? All values of x that will satisfy this equation. So, ibig sabihin, we'll be needing the general solution. Okay. Since ang period ni cosine, no, ang susunod na coterminal angle niya kay pi is si 3 pi. So, mag-a-add ka ng 2 pi. No? Pero madami yon. So, anong sabi natin last time? Di ba? Ako yung nag-discuss noon. Di ba nag-investigate pa tayo noon? We need to add what? 2 pi k or 2 pi n, where n is any integer. So, our general solution then will be simply x equal to pi, yun yung unang representative ng angle, the pi, plus 2 pi n, where n is any integer, para makuha natin yung other coterminal angles ni pi. Okay? So, this is our general solution. Okay po? So, this time po, hindi na po nakaspecify kay 0 to 2 pi yung interval. Okay? But, all solutions na siya. So, general solution na dapat ang gagamitin. Sir, kanina ko pa po napapansin, sir, na ang mga final answers mo is always in pi radians. No? Lagi pong in pi radians. Hindi po pwede na, sir, na in degrees. Halimbawa po, 180 degrees, 90 degrees, 30 degrees. Hindi po ba pwedeng ganon? Okay. When we are discussing solving for the values of x, no, sa equations, we are actually finding the roots of the equation. Tama po? And then pinakita natin kanina, 'di ba? We represented the left side of the equation as a function and the right side of the equation as a function. And then the intersections of the graphs of these two are actually the what? The solutions to the equation. Tama po? And if we will interpret it as a graph, 'di ba ang functions, ang domain niya is real number system. Tama po, real number system. So dapat, and that's the domain, no? So dapat ang solution din natin is in real number system. Okay? Si pi ba, sir? Oo naman, no? Si pi. Di ba? Ano equivalent niya? 3.14 and so on. No? Approximate siya. So, nasa real number system siya. No? Si 90 degrees po ba? Wala sa real number system. Degrees nga ay angle nga siya No? So, all the final answers should be in radians. Okay po? all the final answers should be in radians. Okay po. Tandaan niyo yan no, students and teachers, no? All the answers should be in radians. Kasi ang ating system is in real number system. Okay po. Okay, 2. Number 2. You have here now 2 sine x plus 1 is equal to 0. Okay, so how do we do that? 2 sine x plus 1. We manipulate the left side, no, by, and the right side by adding negative 1 both sides or subtracting 1, no, both sides. And we'll give you 2 sine x equals negative 1. Tama po? 0 minus 1 is negative 1. And then dividing both sides by 2, no, dividing both sides by 2 will give you sine x equal to negative 1 half. Okay, by quadrant rule, no, positive si sine, sir, kay quadrants 1 and 2. So, it should be in quadrants 3 and 4. Tama po? So, by the quadrant rule, so x must be 7 pi over 6 or 11 pi over 6. Okay, the general solution is this. No? 7 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n, 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. No? Kasi, saan nga ulit yun? Sir, bakit po 2 pi n? Kasi, di ba ang period din naman ni sine tsaka ni cosine is 2 pi. So, dun din siya usually nakuha. Pero there are some solutions minsan na hindi 2 pi n yung ina-add sa kanya. No? We will have those examples later and we will explain why. Okay. Now, if we're going to use our calculator, sige, try nga natin, sir. Gumamit ni calculator. So, inverse sine. Inverse sine. Menu 1 muna, no? If we're going to get the inverse sine. Shift, and then inverse sine of negative 0.5. Equals, so, yan, negative pi, 1/6 pi. O, di ba nasa fourth quadrant siya? Paano kunin yung first na positive coterminal niya? So, plus 2 pi. Shift 2 pi equals, o, ayun, 11 pi over 6. Ano yung reference angle niya? Pi over 6. No? Pi over 6. Paano makukuha yung nasa third quadrant? O, di pi over 6 plus pi. So, shift pi over 6 plus pi equals 7 pi over 6. So, you have this, 7 pi over 6. Now, using table mode, paano nga ulit yon? Menu 9. F of x, ano yung right side na equation mo? 2 sine x plus 1. 2 times sine x. This time, we need to have close parentheses. Bakit? Kasi may plus 1 ka eh. Pag wala kang close parentheses, i-interpret yan ni calculator na si plus 1 kasama sa angle. Eh hindi. So, you need close parentheses. Plus 1. Equals. Ano yung nasa right side? 0. O di equals 0. Equals. Again, mag-start tayo kay 0. Mag-end tayo kay 2 pi. Okay? So, ano natin? Pagpipilian, pi over 6 or pi over 4. So, let's try first. Pi over 6. Shift. Pi over 6. Equals and then equals. Saan siya nag-equal? So, ito 0, ito pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6. Ayan. Parehas silang equals. 7 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6. Oh, 11 pi over 6. Parehas. Okay po. Okay po. So, yun siya. No? So, sir, but parang mas masaya yata kapag table mode, kapag ganitong mga medyo komplikado yung equation. So, mas masayang gamitin nga, no? Si table mode. Kasi kapag gumamit ka ng inverse sine, dami pang mga algebraic manipulations na gagamitin. Okay? If you want to see the graph, ganun lang ulit. Just use the QR code. Okay po? So, next. Okay. Number 3. Ayan. Twice the sum of tangent x plus 3 is equal to 5 plus tangent x. So, using algebraic manipulations, paano? So, using distributive property, no? Kailangan kasi si 2, ma-distribute muna siya dito kay binomial na tangent x plus 3. Okay, you doing so, you will have 2 times tangent x is 2 tangent x. 2 times 3 is 6. No? Hindi lang siya kay tangent i-multiply ha sa lahat ng nasa loob. Kaya 2 times tangent x and then 2 times 3 equals 6. And then just copy the right side. Next, we need to isolate na tangent lang yung nasa left side. Paano? Okay. So, ang coefficient nito coefficient ni tangent dito. 1 lang dito. O di dapat ito ang mawala. Okay, yung mas maliit. So, we need to subtract tangent x both sides. Doing so, 2 tangent x minus tangent x, di isang tangent x na lang. Then plus 6, and then what is left on the right side is 5. Again, how can we eliminate 6 here? Di subtract 6 both sides. So, tangent x is equal to negative 1. Okay? Parang nasolve na namin kanina, sir, yung tangent x equals negative 1. So, it should be 3 pi over 4 or 7 pi over 4. General solution. Ayan. Sir, dalawa yan eh. Bakit isa na lang ngayon? Okay. Bakit hindi na siya 2 pi? Sige nga, gamit tayo ng calculator. 3 pi over 4 at saka plus pi. Sige. Di ba si pi, that's also 4 pi over 4. So, 4 pi over 4 tsaka plus 3 pi over 4. O di 7 pi over 4. Sir, dadaanan na rin pala si 7 pi over 4. Kaya 3 pi over 4 plus pi n where n is any integer. Bakit usually din pi n ang pinang-a-add kay tangent? Kasi ang period ni tangent, 'di ba? Usually nabubuo niya yung graph, no, sa pi n. Yung gano'n na hati. Yan, yung doon sa graph. Okay. If we're going to use the calculator, paano po? Table mode. Okay. So, delete natin to. Delete. So, this is 2, open parenthesis, tangent x. So, tangent x. Close parenthesis for the angle. The first close parenthesis for the angle. And then plus 1. Plus 3 rather. Plus 3. And then another close parenthesis. Kasi eto, no, para dito, etong huling parenthesis ito, para dito sa naunang open parenthesis. Etong close parenthesis ito para kay angle ito. Okay? So this is the left side of the equation equals. Right side of the equation, 5 plus tangent x. So delete natin ito. 5 plus tangent x. Sir, pwede na kung walang close parenthesis, okay lang. Kasi wala naman ang kasunod sa right side. Okay, equals. Okay, 0 and then 2 pi. Ayan pa rin yun, no? Naging decimal lang siya. Sir, pi over 6 to, di ba? Sige, try natin. Pi over 6. May nag-error, sir. So, walang equal. Hindi pa rin nag-equal. Hindi pa rin. So, wala. So, try natin ibahin yung increment. So, pi over 4 this time. So, the same function. Ang babaguhin natin yung increment, di ba? 0 to 2 pi pa rin naman siya. This time, ang increment na ito try natin, pi over 4. So, shift, and then pi over 4 equals. And then pressing equals again. So, this is 0. This is pi over 4. This is 2 pi over 4. This is 3 pi over 4. You have here, no? 4 and 4. Equal sila. No? 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4. 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4. And then 7 pi over 4. So, equal ulit siya. No? And then, okay. Sir, bakit dito? Parehas error. Bakit hindi mo siya kinuha? Parehas naman siyang error. Ibig sabihin, di ba, siya ay asymptotic doon sa value ni x. Okay. Mag-error siya doon kasi hindi siya mag-exist doon. Asymptotic yung graph niya doon. Okay? Kasi denominator 0. Bawal naman tayo magkaroon ng denominator na 0. Okay? So, hindi kasama yun. Kaya siya error. Okay po ba? Okay, next. This time, no, yung susunod natin, tapos na natin siya, no? So, Algebraic manipulations naman. This time we have quadratic equations part 1. Kasi meron pa tayong ibang quadratic equations part. Okay. Let's have the first one. 2 sine squared x minus 1. Okay. So how do we do that? We need to eliminate negative 1 by adding 1 both sides. So we will have 2 sine squared x equal to 1. And then we need to divide both sides by 2 para maging 1 ang numerical coefficient. We have sine squared x equal to 1 half. Now, di ba ano to, sir? Nung grade 9 kami, sir, ano to extracting the square roots ang gagamitin. So, tama. Extract the square root of both sides. So, square root of sine squared x, that is sine x. Square root of 1 half, dahil nag-extract ka ng square root, di ba laging dalawa yon? It's positive and negative. Again, tandaan, when you extract square root, it should always be positive and negative. Okay. So, positive and negative square root of the fraction 1 half or positive and negative square root of 2 over 2. Anong pinagkaiba nun, sir? Okay. Kasi pag binasa mong positive and negative square root of 1 over 2, sir, yung square root, yung 1 na ba ang naka-square root o kasama yung denominator? So, para malinaw. Positive and negative square root of the fraction. So, alam ko na agad, fraction yung nasa loob ni square root. 1 half. No? Okay po. So, dito naman, positive and negative square root of 2 over 2. So, alam mo na agad na 2 lang yung nasa loob ni square root. Okay po. Okay. So, kung x ay positive square root of 2 over 2, kung positive square root of 2 over 2 siya, no? Saan positive si sign? Quadrants 1 and quadrants. Quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. Square root of 2 over 2, that's pi over 4. Pi over 4. Sa quadrant 2, it's 3 pi over 4. Okay? Tama po? And then, yung negative square root of 2 over 2 naman. O, di nasa sign yun, di nasa third quadrant tsaka fourth quadrant yun. That is 5 pi over 4 or 7 pi over 4. Alright, if we're going to use our calculator, sige. No? Menu 1. Inverse sign ni negative square root of 1 half. O, diba? Ayan yung nasa quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 to, diba? So, plus 2 pi, o di, 7 pi over 4. So, plus 2 pi. 7 pi over 4. Para makuha yung nasa third quadrant, ang reference angle mo is pi over 4, diba? So, pi plus pi over 4. Shift pi plus shift pi over 4. We have 5 pi over 4. Ayun siya. Kung positive naman, so shift inverse of square root of 1 half equals pi over 4. Para makuha na sa second quadrant, subtract the reference angle from pi. So shift pi minus the reference angle. 3 pi over 4. Okay ba? Sir, kala ko ba pwede rin positive or negative square root of 2 over 2? O, di, gamitin mo sa square root of 2 over 2. Parehas lang din naman ang lahat. Okay, table mode. Sige, table mode. Menu 9. Okay, f of x, 2 sine squared x. Okay, dito, no, ang square natin after nung angle. Yun ini-interpret ng calculator, no? Pero ang tamang sulat, ganito. Ganito yung tamang sulat. Ganito yung tamang sulat. Pero kay calculator kasi medyo, ano, medyo kakaiba yung ano niya, notation niya. Ito yung notation kay calculator. Pero ito yung tama. Okay. Minus 1. And then g of x is 0. So 0. Alright. Start with 0. End with 2 pi. End with 2 pi. And then our interval is pi over 6. No? Pero pag tinry nyo yun, walang lalabas. Okay? So, let's try pi over 4. Shift pi over 4. equals, and then equals. So, ito si 0, no, hindi siya equal, kay pi over 4 equal. So, tama, check, parehas silang 0, pi over 4. 2 pi over 4, hindi equal. 3 pi over 4, parehas 0, check, 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4, hindi equal. 5 pi over 4, check, parehas 0. 6 pi over 4, hindi. 7 pi over 4, parehas 0, check. And then, 8 pi over 4. So, yun siya. No? So, lahat siya. Now, general solution. Pi over 4. Kala ko ba, sir, kapag sign, usually 2 pi. 2 pi n ang ginagamit mo. Kasi observe nyo. Let us observe. No? Anong difference ni pi over 4 tsaka ni 3 pi over 4? Ang pagitan nila, no? Para si pi over 4 maging 3 pi over 4, nag-add ka ng pi over 2. Pag nag-add ka ulit ng pi over 2 dito, that's 5 pi over 4. Pag nag-add ka ulit ng pi over 2 dito, that's 7 pi over 4. Di dadaanan na siya nito. Okay. So, eto na lang si representative mo, pi over 4 plus pi over 2n. Where n is n. Okay po? So, medyo tricky siya. Pero, you just need to observe. Okay po? Okay. Next. Ang kukulit nila, no? Nagpo-Pokemon Go kasi ako. May GC kami. So, pag mag-a-attack kami ng gym, nag-message. So, number 2. 4 cosine squared x minus 3 equals 0. So, again, manipulating, we have 4 cosine squared x minus 3. We want to eliminate negative 3 both sides, so we need to add 3 on both sides. Doing so, you have 4 cosine squared x equals 3. Tama? And then, we want cosine squared x be alone on the left side with 1 as numerical coefficient, so we need to divide both sides by 4. So, giving you with cosine squared x equal to 3/4. Now, again, extract square root of both sides. So, it's positive or negative square root of 3/4 or simply positive negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay po? So, ito yung kanyang mga values using calculator. Sige, tingin nga kami, sir. Tingin nga po kami. Okay. Menu 1. So, shift, cosine, no? Square root of 3 over 4. Square root of 3 fraction bar 4. So that's positive. Pi over 6. So that's pi over 6. And this is your reference angle. To get the angle in the second quadrant, positive si cosine pala first saka fourth quadrant. Paano makukuha yung nasa fourth quadrant? Subtract it, the reference angle from 2 pi. So 2 pi minus the reference angle equals 11 pi over 6. Ito yun. And then kapag negative naman, negative, so shift, cosine, okay, negative of the square root of 3 over 4. A fraction bar, 4 equals 5 pi over 6. Anong reference angle niya para makuha yung nasa third quadrant? Pi over 6. So, we need to add pi kay pi over 6. Shift pi over 6. Alright, plus pi. So, shift. And then for the pi. So, 7 pi over 6. Okay, table. No? Para mas madali na siya sa skill table eh. No? Oh, mas madali na siya actually skill table. So, you have 4 cosine x. Again, ang square niya, no, nandito after ni angle. Minus 3. Equals. Then, right side is 0. So, 0. Equals. Start hanggang 0 to 2 pi. 2 pi. Equals. So, anong natin? Interval pi over 6. Over 6. Equals. And then equals. Okay. So, 0. So, this is pi over 6. Okay. Parehas sa 0. Pi over 6. 2 pi over 6. 3 pi over 6. 4 pi over 6. 5 pi over 6. Parehas 0. 6 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6. Equal again. 8 pi over 6. 9 pi over 6. 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6. So, equal ulit siya, no? So, yun siya. General solution. O dahil si pi over 6 plus pi, pag nagdagdag ka dyan ng pi, so 6 over 6 yun, no? So 6 plus 1 is 7 pi over 6. Nadaanan na si 7 pi over 6. Okay po? And then this one, and then this one, 5 pi over 6. Pag nagdagdag ka ng 6 over 6 pi, o 6 plus pi, 5 plus 6 rather, is 11 pi over 6. So yun na siya. So ito na yung general solution. Where n is any integer. Okay po? So, next. This time around, we will be having substitution. Sige, let's do this. How do we do this? Tangent of the angle, ano yung angle natin? Difference of x and pi over 2 is equal to 1. So how do we do this? Sir, medyo nakakaloko naman yun. E di mag-rename tayo, no? We let angle u be the angle x minus pi over 2. So kung papalitan natin to ng u, we substitute this x minus pi over 2 as u, di magiging tangent u equals 1 na lang siya. O diba? Masaya. So kailan positive si tangent? Kay quadrants 1 or 3. No? So by quadrant rule, we will be having pi over 4 sa first quadrant. Yung nasa third quadrant, paano makukuha? Add ka ng pi. So 5 pi over 4. Kahit gamitan mo pa ng calculator. Sige. So inverse tangent. Menu 1. Inverse tangent. Okay. Ni 1. That's pi over 4. Para makuha yung nasa quadrant 3 plus pi. So 5 pi over 4. And so, nakita nila, susunod. And so, u must be pi over 4 plus pi n, where n is any integer. This is a general solution. But, x yung pinapahanap sa atin eh. X yung pinapahanap. So, babalik tayo kay x minus 2. Cu, papalitan mo ulit ng x minus pi over 2. Doing so, if u is pi over 4 plus pi n where n is integer, etong u, papalitan mo ulit ng x minus pi over 2. O di eto, magiging x minus pi over 2, tapos kopyahin mo na lang to. O eto na siya. Okay? Tama po? O tama. And then, para maiwan si x, we need to add both sides by pi over 2 para mawala to. Tapos x na lang matitira. Doing so, x na lang yung natira dito. Pi over 4 plus pi over 2, that's 3 pi over 4. Kasi pi over 2, para maging ma-add sila, kailangan pares denominator, di ba? 2 pi over 4 si pi over 2. Kasi lowest term ni 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2. So, 2 plus 1, that's 3 pi over 4. Okay? So, yan siya. This is general solution. That's how we use substitution. Let's have another example. So, you have 2 cosine 4x plus 1 is equal to 0. Okay? Solution. Okay, so manipulating, kailangan ma-eliminate natin si 1. So, subtract 1 both sides. Giving you 2 cosine 4x equal negative 1. We want to divide both sides by 2 para cosine 4x na lang maiwan. So, divide both sides by 2. We have cosine 4x equals negative 1 half. Okay, sir, 4x yung ulit yung angle eh. O, di mag-represent ulit. Let u be equal to 4x. Then, kung papalitan ko si 4x ng u, magiging cosine u equals negative 1 half. Tama? For cosine to be negative, it should be in quadrants 2 and 3. Or 3 rather. Quadrant 2 or quadrant 3. Paano? Paano yun? So, by the quadrant rule, u must be 2 pi over 2 or 4 pi over 3. Okay. Pag ginamitan mo ng calculator, yan ang lalabas. 2 pi over 3, yung nasa third quadrant rather, is 4 pi over 3. So, ang general solution natin, dalawa. 2 pi plus 3 plus 2 pi n or 4 pi over 3 plus 2 pi n, where n is any integer. So, it's any integer. But, recall, ano si u natin? 4x. Tsaka x din yung pinapahanap. Kailangan natin maibalik si 4x. So, itong u, papalitan natin ulit ng 4x. So, magiging, okay, 4x equals 2 pi over 3 plus 2 pi n, or 4 pi over 3 plus 2 pi n, where n is any integer. X lang ang kailangan mo. So, divide both sides natin by 4. So, 4x divided by 4, 4. So, lahat ito, i-divide natin ng 4. Okay? 2 pi over 3 divided by 4. So, magiging, di ba, pag nag-divide ng fractions, you get the reciprocal of the dividend, of the divisor rather, of the divisor. And then you proceed to multiplication. E di magiging 2 pi over 3 times 1/4. Pwede kong makancel si 2 at saka si 4. Magiging 2 times 3 na lang sa denominator. Kaya magiging pi over 6 plus. Etong si 2, i-divide din natin ng 4. Magiging 1/2. So, pi over 2 n. Tama? Okay. So, ito naman pangalawa. 4 pi over 3. So, when I divide this by 4, so makakancel na si 4. Magiging 1 na siya. So, pi over 3 na lang siya. Plus, 2 pi over n divided by 4, magiging pi over 2. Okay? So, pi over 2n. So, yun na yung kanilang general solution. Okay po? Okay. So, sir, pwede po bang gamitin yung calculator? Sige, gamitan natin yung calculator. Oo, kasi lalo yan, maganda yan, merong may pi over 3 na siya, di ba? Ginagamit natin interval, pi over 6 lang, at saka pi over 4. Sige nga. So, may table mode, menu 9. Your left side is 2 cosine 4x, close parenthesis, and then plus 1. Tama po ba? That's plus 1. And then, when you press equals, yung nandito naman sa right side na equation mo is 0. So, just 0 and then equals. Start 0 equals, and then mag-end tayo kay 2 pi. So, shift, then equals. Anong interval natin sabi? Pi over 6. So, shift, pi over 6. Okay. Equals. Ayan. So, have there na. No? Have it there. When we press equals, okay. So, saan siya nag-equals? So, pi over 6 interval natin, di ba? Yan, 0. And then, pi over 6. Okay. Okay. Pi over 6. So, tama. Pi over 6. Yan, no? Pi over 6. Pi over 6. And then, 2 pi over 6 equal din siya. Ano bang lowest term ni 2 pi over 6? Di ba pi over 3 yun? Oh, you have there, pi over 3. 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6. So, equal ulit, sir. 4 pi over 6. Anong lowest term nun? 2 pi over 3. Oh, ito yun eh. No? Pag kinuha mo yung representative, 1. So, pi over 2 plus L. So, magkakaroon ka na ng 2 pi over 3. And so on. Okay, yun pa siya. So, andito na yun sa mga representatives nito. Okay po. So, yun siya. Table functions. Meron pong nag-comment, no? Baka meron kayo statistical analysis na lesson. Ang episode po natin ngayon, again, is nakafocus po kay trigonometric equation. So, some other Saturdays po, magdi-discuss po tayo ng ibang topics po ng math. So, meron po tayong, every Saturday po kasi meron po naka-align na topic for discussions po natin. Okay po. So, antay na lang po tayo. Abang-abang po, no? Baka po meron tayong statistical analysis na topic sa next few days. Okay. Next few Saturdays rather. Kasi every Saturday po ang ating webinars. Okay. Ayan na yung sinasabi kong part 2. Quadratic equations part 2. So, we have here 2 sine squared x plus sine x. No? Quadratic siya in nature. Quadratic siya sa in terms of sine x. Okay, paano siya? So, pwede natin siyang i-factor out, di ba? No? Pwede siya. So, we will use factoring this time. Ito, may sin x. Ito, may sin x din. So, we can factor out sin x. Pero, yung ibang estudyante kasi, um, yung pagdating na trigonometric function, hindi nila ma-imagine siya kaagad na parang siyang quadratic equation lang agad-agad. So what we do is we represent sin x as u. So kung papalitan natin si sin x ng u, naka-square si sin. So 2u squared plus sin x is u plus u equals 0. So ito, mas madali nila itong ma-recognize na quadratic in nature. No? Kasi ito yung lesson nila nung grade 9. How do we solve this one? Parehas may u, we can factor out 1u. Okay. So, nag-factor tayo ng u, ang matitira na lang dito, nagbawas ka ng isang u, 2u. u divided by u is 1, so plus 1. So, 2u plus 1. Okay? Equals 0. And then by zero factors theorem, any of these factor might be equal to 0 for the whole expression to be 0. Tama? So, u is equal to 0 or 2u plus 1 is 0. Okay, u is 0 or 2u plus 1 is 0. Solving further this one, no, add negative 1 both sides or subtract 1 both sides. We have 2u equals negative 1. And then, we want the coefficient of u be equal to 1. So, we need to divide to both sides. So, u is negative 1/2. Tama po. So, sir, magge-general ka na ba? Hindi po. Kasi hindi naman angle yung nakuha mo dito, di ba? Hindi naman angle si u eh. Function siya si sin x siya. So, what do? We will just replace again u with sin x. So, we will have if u is equal to 0, itong una, then u is sin x, so sin x is equal to 0. Okay? So, kailan ba nagiging 0 si sin? Diba? Kapag nakay 0 siya or nakay pi. Tama po? Tama po ba? Pwede ring 2 pi. Okay? For the interval na 0, in close interval between 0 to 2 pi. So, 0 pi or 2 pi. So, anong general solution niya? No? In general, so it could be pi n. Sir, pi n, where n is any integer. Paano si 0? Kasi pwedeng 0 sabi mo, sir, eh. Pwedeng 0 si angle. O sige nga, any integer si n eh. Diba 0 is an integer o 0 times pi. O di 0. O di kasama pa rin siya. Okay pa. So next. Paano naman yung pangalawa? U equals negative 1/2. O the same thing, similarly, if u is negative 1/2, then replacing u again with sin. So you have sin x equals negative 1/2. Sir, parang nasolve na namin yung kanina. Yes. So it's 7 pi over 6 or 11 pi over 6. Anong general solution niya? Okay. O di isama-sama mo na. Ito may 2 pi n to. Ito may 2 pi n din, di ba? So, tsaka ito na may general din. So, x can be pi n or 7 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n or 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n where n is n integer. So, yun na yung solutions dito. Sir, pwede namin makita kay Casio. Sige nga, gamitan natin ang table mode. Yan, naka-table mode tayo. Okay. Burahin natin yung nasa calculator. Delete. 2 sin x. Again, yung square natin after ni angle, no? Plus sin x equals. And then the right side is 0. Parehas pa rin, ano? Yung ating increment pa rin is pi over 6. So, press equals. Ayan, 0. Equals sila 0. Pi over 6, hindi. 2 pi over 6, hindi. 3 pi over 6, hindi. 4 pi over 6, hindi. 5 pi over 6, hindi. 6 pi over 6 equal. Ano ang lowest term ni 6 pi over 6? Diba 6 divided by 6, 1? O di pi. So, tama. Meron tayong pi. 7 pi over 6, uy, equals 0 ulit. Ayun, 7 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6. Ayun. Okay? And then 12 pi over 6. Ayan, 0 pa na no, sir? So 2 pi. O, ando na yun. Andi dito na yun. When n is 2, because 2 is an integer, di 2 pi. Okay, 2 pi. Tama po? So yun siya. So andito na yung ibang representatives ng coterminal angles. Di ba, ang saya kapag table mo. Madali mo na makikita yung mga solutions. Okay, hindi ka na mag-inverse. Okay po. So next. Number 2. Okay, number 2. You have here 2 sine squared x minus 5 sine x plus 3. So, the same thing. Let us represent u as sine x. So, let u equal sine x. Then we have, kung u si sine x, so 2u squared ulit ito. Minus 5u plus 3 equals 0. Now, 2 times 3, that's 6. Pwede. Pwede rin na negative 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Pero ang kailangan ko kasi, sir, negative 5. No? Negative 5. Paano gagawin natin dyan? Paano gagawin? So, ibig sabihin, pwede tayong yung isang factor, 2u. Pasensya na, no? Mouse ang gamit ko, pangit ako magsulat. And then u. Saan natin ilalagay si 3? No? Factors ito could be 1 times 3. So, itatapat ko dito si 3. Pag nag-FOIL method, no? 3u, tapos ito 2u. Pwede. Magkakaroon ako ng 5 pag inad ko sila. So, dito ko dapat si 3. Tama? Dito ko dapat si 3. Para 3u, tapos dito si 1, 2u. Kasi 3 times 1, 3. Tama po? Yun yung factors ni 3 1 at saka 3. Then 2u and u, that's 2u squared. Paano kung magkakaroon ng negative 5, sir? Negative times negative is positive. So, negative 3, negative 1. Tama, sir. Negative 3u, negative 2u, kaya negative 5u pag pinag-add. Okay? So, those are the factors. So, burahin ko lang, no? Pointers, erase. Erase po. Yan. So, next. By factoring, now we have 2u minus 3 times the binomial 2u minus 3 times the binomial u minus 1 is equal to 0. By factoring. Pinakita naman natin kanina kung paano yung factoring yan, no? So, paano yan ngayon? Sabi natin kanina, no? By zero factors theorem, each factor can be equal to 0. No? Any of these two factors can be 0 to make the whole expression 0. Therefore, 2u minus 3 is equal to 0 or u minus 1 is equal to 0. Let us solve first this one. No? Add 3 both sides. You have 2u equals 3. And divide both sides by 2. So you have u is equal to 3 halves. Now this one naman, u minus 1 is equal to 0. Now add 1 both sides. So u is equal to 1. Okay po? But again, our u is sine x. So recall that u is equal to sine x. Thus, if u is 3 halves, then sine x is equal to 3 halves. Tama po ba? Pag gumamit tayo ng calculator, yan, gamit tayo ng calculator. Menu 1. Inverse sine ni 3 halves equals error. Bakit nag-error? Ano ba si 3 halves? Di ba siya ay isa't kalahati? 1 and 1 half. Kung maaalala nyo yung discussions natin ng graphs of trigonometric functions, yung mga mother functions na sine x, si sine x ay only between negative 1 to positive 1. Kung 1.5, lagpasan siya kay 1. O di mali, wala siya sa definition. Okay? That's why 3 halves is extraneous. Extraneous meaning panggulo. Hindi siya kasama, no? Hindi siya solution. Okay. So wala. Scrap tayo kay u equals 3 halves. Pero meron pa tayong u minus 1 equals 0 or u equals 1. So u equals 1. Then, si u papalitan natin ng sin x. So sin x equals 1. So if we're going to use this one, solving shift, inverse sine of 0.5, 0.5 is also, mali. 1 pala yun. So delete, delete, delete. Very wrong. Okay, 1. Inverse sine of 1, you have pi over 2. Okay. That's the only solution. General solution natin, pi over 2 plus 2 pi n, where n is integer. Kasi ang susunod na co-terminal niya is, naka-differ na ng 2 pi n. Okay po. Okay. So let's have the third, no? Let's have the third. This time you have cosine squared x plus 3 cosine x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, this time let us represent cosine x as u. So this will be u squared plus 3u, so cosine x is u, minus 1 equals 0. Okay? So we use substitution and then magpa-factoring tayo ulit. Now, so, no, pointer options, okay. So, ang possible na factors niya ay ito. Again ha, pagpasensya ng sulat, naka-mouse lang tayo. This is u, this is u. No, factors ni 1, 1 din, tsaka 1. Dahil negative, sa dapat positive, sa negative. Oops, sir. Hindi pwede kasi this is positive u, this is negative u. Magsi-0 siya, hindi naman 0 middle term. Meaning, this is not factorable. Sir, paano nang gagawin namin? Paano nang gagawin namin siya? So, you can either use other possible ways in solving quadratic equations. Diba? There are so many ways. Extracting the square root, by factoring, by completing the square, or by the famous quadratic formula. Paano nga ulit yung quadratic formula? Yung x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, the quadratic formula. Diba? So this is yun, no? This is the numerical coefficient of the second degree term, which is a. This is the numerical coefficient of the linear term, which is b. And this is your constant term, which is c. A, B, C. Here, a is 1, B is 3, and C is negative 1. So by using quadratic formula, we have u, kasi u yung variable natin, is equal to negative b. Your b is 3, so negative 3. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. Eh, ano ba si b? 3. So 3 squared minus 4ac. 4, ano si a? 1. Ano si c? Negative 1. All over 2a. Eh, si a mo 1. So 2 times 1. Alright? So, 3 squared, 9. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4, so 13. So, u must be negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. So, dalawa yung values niya. Negative 3 plus the square root of 13 over all over 2, or negative 3 minus the square root of 13 all over 2. But what is u? Cosine. So, ibabalik natin doon. Thus, if u is negative 3 minus square root of 13 over 2, then cosine of negative x is equal to negative 3 minus square root of 13 all over 2. Let us try to approximate this one. Let us try to approximate square root of 13. Okay, square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 16 is 4. 13 is between 9 and 16. Meaning, square root of 13 is greater than 3. So, it's 3 point something. Tama? Negative 3 minus 3 point something will be negative 6 point something. Tama? When you divide that by 2, it's negative 3 point something. Tama po? Again, recalling cosine, the definition natin ni cosine, ang values lang niya is between negative 1 to positive 1. Eh, sabi mo, eto sir, is negative 3 point something. O di lagpasa na siya kay negative 1. Therefore, this is extraneous. Again, it's extraneous. So, wala siya. Wala siyang bilang. Okay? Hindi siya kasama sa solution. O di, huwag na natin pag-aksayan ng panahon yan. So, pangalawa, Kung plus naman, negative 3 plus square root of 13, ay, okay, dapat may equal yan. Dapat may equal. Ayan, dapat may equal. So, siguro sa anto ko na kagabi, nagkulang na, no? Nagkulang na siya. Then, cosine x, negative 3 plus square root of 13 all over 2. Again, sabi mo kanina, sir, this is 3 point something. So, pag nagdagdag ka ng negative 3 plus 3 point something, it's 0 point something. Positive siya. O, tapos i-divide mo pa yung 0 point something ng 2, di mas maliit siya lalo. So, nandun siya sa interval. So, tama siya. Okay? For cosine to be positive, for cosine to be positive, it should be either in quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. Oh, dahil hindi siya special angle, wala ka ng choice. Gagamit ka na talaga ni calculator. Okay? So, paano yun? Inverse cosine. No? Neto, inverse cosine neto. So, it's a fraction ni negative 3 plus square root of 13 all over 2. And that is 1.26. Okay? Sir, nasa quadrant 1 pa rin po ba siya? Diba ang ating quadrant 1 is 0 to pi over 2. So 3.14 divided by 2 is, ano yun? Diba ang 3 is 1.5. O dahil 3.4, mas mahigit siya kay 1.5. Eh wala pa nga itong 1.5. Yung nakuha natin na value, wala pang 1.5. So it's in quadrant 1. Sabi natin, kapag angle in quadrant 1, it is a reference angle. So our first value is 1.26. No? Paano makukuha yung nasa fourth quadrant? Again, subtract the reference angle from 2 pi. So 2 pi minus the reference angle, that's 5.01999. So rounding off to 2 decimal places, that's you have 5.02. And then getting the other coterminal angles of this, so you have, this is your general solution now. This is your general solution now. Okay. Next ko po is using trigonometric identities. Okay po. Water break lang po ako. Mabilis lang. Kasi, nanunuyo na po yung lalamunan ko. Bawal po yan. Diba? We have to take care of our lalamunan. Okay, so let's have example 1. Cosine 2x is equal to cosine x. Now, although no, the equation is in single trigonometric function, which is cosine, but the left side is in double angle, and the right side is normal cosine. Okay, so paano yun? So we will use trigonometric identities. Okay, so how do we do that? Using the double angle formula, cosine 2x, which is cosine 2 theta, is also the same as 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. O di, etong nasa kaliwa natin, papalitan natin ng 2 cosine squared x minus 1. So ito na siya, cosine x. And then, di ba? Alam na natin to nagagawa na natin siya doon sa mga previous equation. So, gawin natin dito, ilagay natin sa left side. Pagiging 2 cosine squared x minus cosine x minus 1 was 0. So, mag-factoring tayo. This is 2, this is 1. Paano gagawin? Okay. So, 2 cosine x. Again, bear with my handwritings, Dahil mouse lang po ang gamit ko. Ayan. Cosine x minus 1. Okay, minus 1. So, it's either positive 1 or negative 1. So, 1 to at saka 1 din ito. Saan si negative? Saan si positive? Kailangan kasi magkaroon tayo ng negative cosine. So, negative 1 dapat ang sum. So, ibig sabihin, dapat, ito kasi, 1 times 1, 1. 2 times 1, 2. So, dapat, andito si negative para magkaroon ka ng negative 2. Tama? Para magkaroon ka ng negative 2. O, dito si positive. Plus 1, Positive 1 times negative 1, negative 1. So, positive cosine x and negative 2 cosine x. Pag pinag-add, negative cosine x. So, these are our factors. Okay? So, erase all inks. Factors now will be 2 cosine x plus 1. No? And then, cosine x minus 1. And then, equating each factors to 0, we have 2 cosine x plus 1 equals 0 or cosine x minus 1 equals 0. And then solving separately, okay, 2 cosine x plus 1 equals 0, subtracting 1 both sides. So 2 cosine x equals negative 1, dividing 2 both sides. So cosine x equals negative 1 half. And then x must be 2 pi over 3 or 4 pi over 3. Okay? The other one, so ito yung general solution natin. No? The other one, cosine x minus 1 was 0. So adding 1 both sides, so you have cosine x plus 1. So para magkaroon ka ng 1 na value ni cosine, siya lagi ay dapat naka 0 o kaya naka 2 pi. So x equals 0. So 2 pi n. Okay po, where n is n. So our general solution now would be this one. O, gamitan nga natin ng calculator. Again, ayan. Table mode tayo, menu 9. Okay. F of x is cosine 2x. 2x equals, right side is cosine x. Okay, cosine x equals, okay, 0 and then 2 pi and then pi over 6, ano? Pi over 6. Shift pi over 6 equals and then equals. So, equal siya kay 0. Tama, no? Magre-represent siya dito when n is 0, so this will be 0. And then, okay, sila equal, pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, no? Equal, oh yan, 5 pi over 6. Okay? And then, okay, not equal, not equal, not equal. Yan siya, ay nawala ako ng bilang, sorry. Sana yan? So this is 8 pi over 6. Pag ni-lowest term, 4 pi over 3. Okay? And then, okay, ano ulit ako? So this is 10 pi over 6. So that's 5 pi over 6. And then, ayun, equal ulit sa 2 pi. Okay, mga co-terminal angles. Okay. Okay. Next. Solve for x. Okay. Last slide na, no? Last slide na. So 3 cosine x plus 3 equals 2 sine squared x. Magkaiba sila. This is in terms of cosine. This is in terms of sine. So ang gamitin naman natin, either we write them all in cosine or we write them all in terms of sine. Pero parang mas madali siya kung in terms of cosine. No? Para magawing quadratic siya. No? We will use the Pythagorean identity. Okay. Sine squared theta is equal to 1 minus cosine squared theta. So, etong sine squared theta, papalitan natin ng 1 minus cosine squared theta. Pero this is in x, so dapat in x. So, copy mo lang to, 3 cosine x plus 3 equals 2 times. Yung buong ito ay 1 minus cosine squared x. So, ito yon. And then we will use distributive property. Just copy this, and then 2 times 1 is 2. And then 2 times negative cosine squared x is negative 2 cosine squared x. That's it. And then, all these terms, lagay natin sa left side. So, magiging positive 2 cosine squared x plus 3 cosine x. And then, this is magiging minus 2. So, 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay? So, again, factoring. No? Kaya bang i-factor, sir? Try. 2 cosine x. Then cosine x. Okay. This is 1. This is 1. Okay. Positive 1. So, either positive 1 or negative 1. Pero dahil positive naman ang gitna, so it should be positive 1. Positive 1. So, this is positive cosine. This is 2 cosine. O tama, 3 cosine x. x. Okay, so tama yung factors natin. 2 cosine x plus 1 and then cosine x plus 1. Okay, continuing. And then, solving separately, no, equals 0, any factor by 0 factor theorem. All right, 2 cosine x plus 1 is equal to 0. So, subtract 1 both sides. So, 2 cosine x equals negative 1 and then divide both sides by 2. So, cosine x equals negative 1 half. Therefore, x must be 2 pi over 3 or 4 pi over 3. Next, this is your general solution. Next, yung isa naman. Cosine x plus 1 equals 0. Cosine x equals negative 1. So, x equals pi. Tama po. So, general solution niya, pi plus 2 pi n for n is, of course, any integer. So, pagsamahin yung dalawa, so you have there. Using calculators, function ulit, no? Table ulit. This is not the function that we wanted, so delete this one. 3 cosine x. Cosine x. Do not forget the close parenthesis, plus 3. And then the right side is 2 sine squared. Delete. Delete this 2. So sine squared. X, again, nasa labas ni angle yung square, squared. 0 to pi over 6 ulit. Okay, 2 pi over 6. 0, hindi siya equal. Hindi ulit ito kay pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6. So, equal siya. 4 pi over 6, lowest term is 2 pi over 3. Okay. 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, that's pi. Tama? 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, so equal na 1.5. 8 pi over 6 lowest term is 4 pi over 3. 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, and then 2 pi. O, wala na. Okay, so thank you, no? So I hope you were able to learn na kung ano man po yung mga diniscuss ko today. I hope you were able to grasp something. Okay po. And before I give you back to Sir Buds, I'll give you my parting words, no? If you never try, you'll never know. Kung hindi niyo po susubukan, hindi niyo po malalaman kung paano gagawin. So, thank you so much. Never be afraid to try something. Okay po. I'll give you now back to Sir Buds. Sir Buds. Wala pa yata, sir. Ma'am Villena. Okay, wala pa ang ating mga host.
Hello, Sir Reynaldo. Good afternoon.
Ayan, good afternoon po. Ayan, sorry. Nag-overtime na tayo ng onting minutes. Ayan po.
Ayan, so thank you very much, Sir Ray, for that very comprehensive discussion about the use of emulators in teaching trigonometry sa ating mga learners. And syempre, you were able to use yung Casio emulators natin na talaga namang nagagamit saan ka man naroroon. So lalo ngayon sa distance learning, we can use that. So at this point siguro, Sir Ray, let's call on our very supportive and handsome Team Casio Educational Unit Head. Let's all welcome Mr. Joel C. Serrano.
Hi.
Hello, Sir Joel.
Good morning to everybody. Good morning, Sir Buddy. Good morning, Sir Torres. What can I say with that presentation? No? So, I think talaga nailatag ni Mr. Torres kung ano talaga yung topic niya today, yung content, pedagogy, andun na lahat plus technology, no? So, sabi nga ni Mr. Torres, this is the last segment ng aming trigonometric topics, no? So, next week, ibang topics naman yung aming i-discuss. And stay tuned lang kayo for more, mga pasabog namin dyan. I think, Sir Buddy, meron tayong special guest para kay Mr. Torres, no?
Yes, sir. We have our third-party commentator, our guest this morning.
Yes, ba? Ay, yata.
Yeah. So, let's have Ma'am Emmy Manalo Santa Ana. Hello, ma'am.
Hello po. Good morning, mga sir.
Hello.
morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Congratulations po, Sir Tony. Yes, Sir Buds.
So, Emmy, what can you say about the presentation of Sir Tony and its implication to the teaching and learning process in the new normal?
Okay, talaga namang napakagaling. Lahat naman po talaga ng mga speakers from session 1 hanggang dito sa last day natin. Talaga naman pinakita na napakahusay ng mga teachers. Hindi lang po regarding sa topics, sa content, maski na rin yung tulong ng technology, lalo na po yung ClassWiz tsaka yung ating graphing calculator.
As a parent, Ma'am Emmy, paano mo a-apply ba yung tinuro ni Mr. Tony as a parent? No?
As a parent, kasi grade 11 na yung aking anak, so wala na silang ganong subject, pero ma-apply ko pa rin siya sa aking mga future employees.
Future, okay. Good.
Kasi ang tutor ko ngayon, elementary, tsaka grade 8.
Okay.
So yun, no, talagang nakita natin na from different point of view na talagang itong Casio emulators, we can use it. Meron nga lang siya applicability lalo na sa senior high school and junior high school. And sabi nga natin, no, when we started this webinar, we are not introducing calculators para hindi na matutunan ng mga learners yung traditional way on how to solve it. Meron na talaga mga bagay na hindi kayang isolve manually, but we can use calculators. And as a teacher, we need to explain it to them. We need to explain the use of calculators and how to utilize calculators properly. Di ba, Sir Joel?
Sir Buddy, meron kasing phone-in question dito para kay Mr. Torres.
Yes, sir.
Sabi dito, kung
Yes, sir.
as a teacher ba, ano ba marerekomenda mo para sa bata? Is it mag-download ng emulator or gumamit ng physical calculator?
Kung estudyante, kung meron naman ng laptop na pagda-download ng emulator, okay lang naman si emulator, no? Pero kung wala na, kasi may mga estudyante na cellphone lang gagamitin for online learning, plus lang laptop. So it's better to use, syempre, yung handheld calculator.
The physical calculator
Di ba
itself.
po? And then,
I think so.
physical calculator, para magamit na din sa mobile phone niya, si Casio Edu Plus.
Correct. Ikaw, Ma'am Emmy, ano masasabi mo? Ano ba dapat ang sa estudyante? Physical calculator or emulator? Kasi yun ang question ngayon eh.
Kasi parang mahirap ang emulator sa mga bata kasi kailangan ganita pa siya ng mouse, tapos kailangan ang screen mo medyo malaki kasi yung emulator kakain ng space eh. Unlike kung habang meron kang physical na calculator, kagaya ko, ayan.
Yun, no?
Kasi titingnan mo lang yung given doon sa screen mo, tapos magsosolve ka, mas mabilis. Napapadali niya yung computation. Natatagalan ako sa emulator actually.
Mas maganda yung pink dyan.
Yeah.
Physical. Yung physical, wala na.
Ubus na eh. Okay.
So, yun. So, talagang, no sir, maganda yung tanong ni Sir Joel is between the physical or yung online, pero we need to consider yung available resources natin. If you have laptops naman and you have the resources, then you can use the emulator, and if you have enough money, pwede ka rin gumamit ng physical calculators. And for those who can afford to have laptops, they can use naman or they can buy ating Casio calculators na hindi naman ganun ka-expensive. So siguro, worth the price naman yung bibili natin kung sakaling bumili sila ng calculators. Lalo na ngayon, we have these fashionable colors. If I'm not mistaken, we have pink calculators from Casio. So, sold out na yata.
Yeah. Sold out na. Yeah, thank you very much sa mga bumili. No? Oo. Meron ba tayong isang special guest, Sir Buddy?
Wala pa siya rito, sir.
Ba? Ano yung surprise guest yun eh, para kay Mr. Torres.
Masa-surprise talaga.
Oo naman, masa-surprise ka talaga pag nakita mo siya.
Magtatago na ako sa mic para di makita.
So, sir, siguro, let's take this opportunity to invite our viewers that at 1 p.m. we'll be having another session. This is more of science-related activity with the use of Casio
more on
calculators as
physics.
well. So
Yeah.
it's 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So 1 p.m. yan, and it's pag sinabi kasi calculators, iba kasi more of mathematics. But on this particular webinar, we will be introducing the use of calculators in different area of specialization, which is science. So
Yeah,
pakikita natin how we can utilize these calculators in the teaching and learning process in science. Tama ba, Sir Joel?
Yeah, I think it's for general science ang discussion. Kasi for the past few weeks, we've been seeing some requests na, oy sir, baka naman pwedeng science, pasukan natin yung science. So, I think ito yung gagawin natin para naman to answer their request. No? Alam mo naman sa Casio, pinakikinggan natin lahat ng request ng mga teachers. Yun. Mr. Torres, ready ka na ba sa special guest natin?
Sino ba yan?
Yeah.
Yes,
I think we
yes.
have our next guest. So,
Tatago na ako.
Ayan.
pakilala natin. Let's have Mr. Flores. Hello, Sir Flores.
Si Sir Arsenio.
Hi, hello.
Hi, Sir Jay.
Gandang araw po sa inyong lahat.
San Carlos City.
Sir Tony, Sir Joel, ma'am, sir. Masasabi ko lang talagang every time na nagsasalita or nagre-represent si Sir Tony sa mga seminars, lagi ko na nakakasama ko rin siya. Talagang naa-amaze pa rin ako. Every time naa-amaze ako. Lalo na how he delivers yung mga presentation niya. Kasi para sa akin, it's so effective. Napaka-effective talaga. And ang advice ko talaga sa mga teachers natin, gayahin nyo kung paano nag-represent si Sir Tony. Kasi sa ginagaya ko siya even in my classroom instruction, ginagaya ko kung paano siya nag-present. And it is very effective. Now, effective in a way na kung paano siya mag-present, nakaka-motivate kasi. At dahil doon, alam nyo naman ang nagiging problema natin lahat is how to motivate yung mga bata. And the way he present yung mga topics niya, it is really invigorating. Yung mga reluctant na mga students nagiging motivated. So, doon pa lang talagang, kumbaga, Sir Tony set a blueprint for effective instruction, especially on online. Kaya for that, congratulations, Sir Tony. The best ka talaga, idol kita. And for the Casio team, laking pasasalamat ko sa inyo dahil you continue, walang sawa kayong sumusuporta sa aming mga mathematics teacher. And rest assured also, susuportahan naman namin ang Casio dahil talagang nakakatulong din sa amin.
Ayan, thank you, Sir Flores, for that very comprehensive insights. Talagang, I think, isa to si Sir Flores sa mga tinitingala rin ng ating mga math teacher sa NCR at sa buong Pilipinas. So,
Tanong mo, Sir Buddy, paano siya nagkakilala?
any last message? Po?
Paano sila nagkakilala?
Yes, Sir Joel?
Anong connection ni Mr. Torres? Anong connection ni Mr. Torres kay Mr. Jake?
So, Sir Jake, would you like to share your story?
Yeah, Sir Tony and I ay magkaklase kami. We are actually part of the batch 1 ng MTAP Scholar. Kami yung batch 1 ng MTAP Scholars. Bale, that was 2013 yata. Magkakasama kami yan and Sir Tony was our president din. Siya ang nag-lead sa amin, siya ang nag-guide sa amin, lalo na sa mga mahihirap na math topics. And doon pa lang nakita ko na talaga na leader siya and at the same time effective siya na instructor. So, ayun, doon kami nagkakilala, doon rin kami na-train din kami paano mag-present ng mga topics in seminars. Naging training ground namin siya. And of course, naging effective kami dahil rin sa pagtuturo guidance sa amin ni Sir Tony. He's one of the best speaker, trainer ng MTAC. And For that, again, Sir Tony, maraming salamat sa pag-guide mo sa amin. At ngayon, na-share ko rin dito sa division namin dito sa San Carlos City, Pangasinan. Na-share ko kung lahat ng mga natutunan ko sa MTAP at natutunan ko kay Sir Tony. Kaya yun, salamat Sir Tony. And I hope dire-diretso pa yan. Sana marinig ka lahat ng mga teachers dito sa Pilipinas dahil ikaw ang pinaka-importanteng tao ngayon sa amin because you're worth emulating, especially ngayon na dapat ay nasa online teaching tayo. Sir Tony, love you.
Nakakataba naman
Ayan.
ang puso masyado yun.
Pamerienda
So,
yung
Joel,
well,
napahapon.
Tony.
Yung
Kahapon we have our session with Mandaluyong din naman. So, nabanggit natin doon, no, this Casio seminars, this Casio webinar sessions, isa sa nagiging daan para yung mga friends natin, yung mga kilala natin, parang is a sort of mini reunion. So, parang ngayon, we have Sir Jake and Sir Tony. So, talagang ang ganda nito, it's not about learning new things, but it's about reminiscing our friendship sa iba nating mga kasama, yung mga memories natin with them. So, Sir Tony, any last message to our viewers?
Bago ako mag-message sa mga ibang viewers, thank you muna Sir Jake for that very wonderful remarks. Parang dumami yung cholesterol sa puso ko. Ayun siya. And for all the viewers, do not be afraid to try. As what I've always said, mula nung August 1, no, try every angle. No, do not be afraid to use technologies when in teaching. No, kasi it will give you more areas, no, na ma-explore, even our students, no, ma-explore. And mas maraming area, ito today, mas maraming learning na magaganap. And for these teachers, please do not be afraid to use technology. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again in the next episodes of MATHtech. Thank you so much.
Sir Joel, any message?
Sa akin na naman, simple lang naman. See you again next time, sabi nga ni Sir Tony, for another session of Casio. No? So, I'd say thank you to Sir Jake, Sir Tony, Sir Buds, and Ma'am Emmy for taking their time sharing it to us. So, sa mga participants, please do visit our official page, no? edu.casio.com para ma-download nyo yung emulators and other educational materials. Then, if you want to visit our official FB page, it's CasioCalculatorsPhilippines.com. Yun. Maraming pong salamat and see you soon. Sir Wadi.
Ayan, thank you, Sir Joel. So again, I would like
Hi,
to
Sir.
extend...
Sir Bobby.
Yes, sir.
I forgot to mention pala, si Ma'am Emmy pala is one of our technical teachers din. Na kasama namin umigikot ng Philippines. So, ano siya, dati siyang Makati Science.
Wow, kasama nila Sir Vidalio pala to. So ayun, no, siguro sir, it's about time to thank our special guest this afternoon. Inabot tayo ng tanghali. Thank you, Sir Jake Flores and Ma'am Emmy Manalo Santa Ana for lending your time with us and for sharing your insights about the use of these calculators in the teaching and learning process. And Sir, maraming salamat din po, and Sir Joel. And later on, we will be having our afternoon session with I think on another area of specialization, which is science po. So mamaya po yan 1 p.m. Sir Joel, would you like to invite them?
Yeah, please stay tuned. 1 o'clock, we have special guest. Ano to, magaling na bata to. And ang discussion will be about general science and more on the physics side naman. So yun, so kita tayo muli mamaya 1 o'clock.
So ayun, and I think that concludes our webinar this morning. Thank you, Sir Joel, and thank you, Sir Tony, for this very wonderful and fruitful webinar session. And natapos na naman po ang ating isang araw ng webinar session with Casio Tech Philippines and Casio Calculators Philippines. And lagi na sinasabi ko, in this new normal, we need to help one another. Kailangan magtulungan tayo, sama-sama tayo, dahil una sa lahat, We are under DepEd and it's our mandate to support the programs and activities of the Department of Education. Muli, tulad ng lagi namin sinasabi, sama-sama tayo, tulong-tulong sa pagsulong ng edukalidad sa ating bansa. Muli, isang magandang tanghali sa inyong lahat and kita-kits po tayo mamayang 1 p.m. Have a nice day. Stay